What's up, you guys? Welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Jess and I like to talk about things that make you want to sleep with the lights on. And today we're going to be talking about the origin story for everyone's favorite homicidal granny, Pearl. Directed by none other than Ty West and co-written by both West and our leading lady, Mia Goth, Pearl has been highly anticipated ever since we saw that post-credits scene after X. Ty West and Mia Goth both started writing the script before they even left for New Zealand to begin production on X. During an interview with Ty West, he was saying that best case scenario, they would turn the script over to A24, they would greenlight the film, and they could stay in New Zealand to begin shooting Pearl. Worst case scenario, they would just have an extensive backstory for Goth's portrayal as Pearl in X itself. But lo and behold, as Wes said, it was something of a miracle because it never happens. A24 greenlit the film before they even started production on X, and because of that, we get something that we never get, and that's two films set in the same universe that are both amazing. Trapped on her family's isolated farm, Pearl must tend to her ailing father under the bitter and overbearing watch of her devout mother. Lusting for a glamorous life like she's seen in the movies, Pearl finds her ambitions, temptations, and repressions all colliding in this origin story of X's iconic villain. Described as a Technicolor nightmare, Pearl breaks away from the 70s chainsaw-inspired visuals that were forefront in X, instead giving us a dreamlike character study into the disturbed psyche of a farm girl who dreams of being a dancer. Even though it is somewhat of a drastic shift between style and tone from X, there are many small callbacks throughout Pearl's runtime that connect it to the previous film. However, the obvious common denominator between the two, the reason why X was so successful and the reason why Pearl will be just as, if not more successful, is because of Mia Goth. Of course, we saw her successfully pull off playing two different parts with Maxine and Pearl in X, but now that she's honed in on that one title character, Goth easily gives one of my favorite performances of the year. Set in 1918, Pearl takes place about 60 years earlier than the events of X, and Pearl's dreams of being a star are constantly squashed and squandered by her pretty repressive German immigrant mother. Pearl's mother is somebody who constantly is reminding her to help out on the farm, to care for her wheelchair-bound father, and obviously, Pearl doesn't want to do that. Not to mention, Pearl's husband Howard is away fighting World War I, and they're living at the height of the Spanish influenza, which, if you didn't know, that's what almost killed Edward Cullen, if you know your very important movie history. Long story short, these people can't catch a break, and Pearl feels like she's the one who's truly suffering from what's happening to her family. I really liked the dynamic between Pearl and her mother. I felt like her mom's feelings of disappointment and frustration towards her daughter were very warranted. I mean, they're doing the best with what they have, and Pearl just doesn't want to help. And I feel for the mother, even though she's kind of portrayed as this repressive, negative character. Like I mentioned earlier, this movie has a totally different style and tone from X, and while it can still be considered horror, and while there will be some people who are not happy with the lack of horror elements in the movie, they're still there, they're still going to be there, but it kind of pushes itself into more of a camp genre. Like I said, there are enough horror and disturbing sequences that play out on screen for this film to be categorized as horror. But I would argue that it's more of a psychological, make you squirm in your seat, make you want to look away from the screen, but you can't look away type of horror. I only have one criticism, and it's something that can be seen as both big or small, was that I feel like they were just grasping at straws to add to that runtime to make sure that this was a feature-length film. This is very much a character study into Pearl, into her motivations and her rationalizations and why she is so angry all the time. And because of that, there aren't really any other things happening in the background to pull our attention to. So I feel like some things were maybe just pulled in last minute to add to that runtime.
But
any issues, any disappointments that I had quickly evaporated during the last 30 to 45 minutes of this movie. This is one of the most enjoyable endings to a horror film that I have seen in a very long time, and it's all because of Mia Goth. During the last 30 to 45 minutes, we get this confessional monologue-like moment from Goth that is the best thing that I have ever seen her do on screen, hands down. I'm pretty sure the scene goes on for like 5 minutes. The camera does not move away from her face, and I do not think I blinked once. That moment combined with some seriously shocking and somewhat amusing visuals, and then you're like upset with yourself for finding the visuals amusing. Yeah, all of that together makes this movie for me, and I cannot wait for you guys to experience the brilliance that is Ty West and Mia Goth. Pearl really gives us a look into the mind of a psychotic budding serial killer that's stylistically set in worlds similar to Wizard of Oz or Mary Poppins. Mia Goth gives a career-defining performance, just further cementing herself as the blood-soaked horror icon we have all come to adore. And despite the few faults that it does have, Pearl is a colorful, twisted thrill ride, proving that sometimes the audience's inability to understand a character's motivation is what makes that character so unsettling in the first place. Taking a step back from Pearl for a moment, something else really exciting just happened, and that's that A24 and Ty West announced a third movie in this sequence of events, and that's going to be starring around Maxine Minx after the events of X happened. And this is going to be more focused on the 80s. I think it's going to be set in 1985, and it's going to kind of dive deeper into the VHS boom and home video and the effect that had on cinema.
Oh, say less.
To quickly wrap up, even if you are not a fan of Pearl, if you're not a fan of X, as a horror fan, you have to admit that there is something so incredibly exciting to see these original ideas being played out on the big screen. I know it blows me away every single time, and by the looks of it, I don't think it's gonna stop anytime soon. That's it, you guys. Those were my thoughts on Pearl. I really hope you guys go see this one. I can't wait to see what you think about it. I think it's gonna be a little bit divisive. It's totally different than X. You can't even compare the two, but yeah. Thanks again for watching. If you like this video, I would really appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up, or if you want to see my next video, just click that subscribe button and join us then. Thanks, you guys. Stay creepy.